After a decade in office, sources tell CNN that Iowa Senator Joni Ernst will not seek re-election.
I'm Joni Ernst. I grew up castrating hogs on an Iowa farm. So when I get to Washington, I'll know how to cut pork.
That was the ad that put Ernst on the national stage and established her as a, by Iowa standards anyway, provocative conservative. That folksy but fiery persona invited all the comparisons to former vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin, who campaigned for her. Ernst, of course, went on to become one of the most powerful and prominent Republican women in the Senate. But that does not mean that she was Trumpy enough for MAGA. Ernst voted to acquit Trump after January 6th, but in the run-up to the 2024 election, she made it clear that she basically wanted to endorse someone else.
So friends, join me in welcoming this inspiring leader, Nikki Haley.
Haley, of course, lost. Ernst, she got on the Trump train. But then came Pete Hegseth with allegations of sexual assault that he denied and his skepticism of women in combat. Ernst, who is a combat vet and a sexual assault survivor, waffled on her vote for his nomination for weeks in public. And MAGA was, shall we say, not pleased. They talked about a primary challenge. Donald Trump Jr. suggested she was basically a Democrat. And what happened in the end? You can guess. She voted yes. And after that, she seemed to be all in when asked about Trump's big, beautiful bill and the Medicaid cuts included in it at a town hall earlier this year. Well, watch.
So people are not, well, we all are going to die.
I guess only two things are certain here in Washington: death and Republicans falling in line behind Donald Trump or getting out of Dodge. Our panel's here, along with CNN's Arlette Saenz, who is in our Washington bureau. Arlette, I'll start with you. What more do we know about the senator's decision today?
Really struggled with this decision for months, but sources told us that she started to tell friends this week that she would not seek a third term in the Senate. It's expected that she will formally make that announcement next week, and that will really kick off a wide open race to succeed her in the Senate. On the Republican side, Congresswoman Ashley Hinson, who represents a northeastern district in Iowa, she is making plans to enter the race, according to one GOP official. And there's a very crowded contest on the Democratic side, with 4 candidates already running, including State Representative Josh Turek, who is a Paralympian wheelchair basketball player. Now, Iowa was a state that President Barack Obama did win back in 2008 and 2012, but Republicans have steadily made gains there, including President Donald Trump, who won the state by 13 points back in 2024. But Iowa Democrats are pointing to success in special elections, including that Democratic win in a conservative state Senate district just this week, as the potential for them to potentially turn the tide in Iowa. Now, Democrats are facing a very uphill battle in trying to win back control of the Senate. They need to pick up 4 seats, and they are already defending seats in states like Michigan and Georgia. But Iowa is a state where they might want to try to make a play. They're also looking strongly at trying to flip places like North Carolina, Ohio, Maine, and even potentially Texas. But this announcement from Ernst will certainly, for Democrats, give them another boost as they are trying to flip one of those GOP states, and they think Iowa could be a target.
Not least forcing Republicans to spend more money than they would like to there. Arlette Saenz for us on this Friday. Arlette, thank you very much. All right, our panel's now here in the arena. Senior political correspondent for the Wall Street Journal, Molly Ball, CNN political commentator Jonah Goldberg, former communications director for the DNC, Mo Elleithee, and CNN political commentator, Republican strategist Brad Todd. We're also joined by Brianne Pfanestiel. She is the chief politics reporter at the Des Moines Register. Welcome to all of you. Brianne, I want to get to you on what's going to play out in Iowa here in just a second, but I actually want to start here at the table. Brad Todd, Joni Ernst has had a very distinguished career in Washington. I actually was out in Iowa. I covered her race. I was at that event she held with Sarah Palin in 2014. She was almost part of the initial wave that kind of warned us that figures like Donald Trump were coming, that people were looking for something different than what they were getting from their politicians. But she clearly, I think if you interacted with her privately, it was pretty clear she was very skeptical of President Trump, and now she's bailing out.
Well, she was a political star. She was started out in her race. She'd been a state senator. She started out in her race, maybe the fourth or fifth pick in the Republican primary. She rode a rocket sled to the top. She's very well liked in Washington by other Senate Republicans. She is, however, at one of two ages in which people retire. She's 55, which is my age. And that's when you start thinking, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? I have another chapter and phase left. The other time they retire is when they're 85 and they can't see or think anymore, right? So those are the two times when you worry about senators leaving.
Right.
So, at 55, there's still plenty of time to do something else big. So you have to decide, am I really going to commit to 6 more years of this? Because at 62, I might not have that choice.
Jonah Goldberg, why do you think she's leaving?
Because it's pretty miserable to be a fairly reasonable conservative senator these days. And, the special election when this woman Dray, where the Democrats picked up in a pretty Republican district, I don't think that made the decision for her, but it probably made it a little easier to do. And also, I'm just glad to hear that Brad is rethinking his options, what to do with the rest of his life. He's got a little
on
whistle
CNN,
there.
for gosh sake.
I was going to say, you're about to get some phone calls from Republicans in Iowa, so you might have to decide what to do about that. Brianna, let me bring you into this conversation because, there are two things going on here, right? There's the Washington story about what it's like to be, as Jonah says, a conservative who's not MAGA enough for MAGA here in Washington. And then there's the political story, what you're facing back home, what it means to undertake a re-election campaign in a high-profile race. And this has become that, especially after those comments that we showed that she made at the town hall. That spurred additional opposition to her from Democrats. You're there. You've got your finger on the pulse of Iowa. There is definitely this, backstory with Iowans, a history in many cases of voting for Democrats. It's not the kind of state that has been red forever and could never change. What are you feeling out there? Do you think this seat is actually going to be in play without Joni Ernst on the ticket?
Well, I think Joni Ernst was going to face a really difficult re-election cycle. As you mentioned, she was facing pushback on both the right and the left. She had those comments about Medicaid at the forum that really inspired a lot of Democrats to get moving, to get serious about this race. And on the right, she was still facing some distrust from kind of the farthest right wings over the Pete Hegseth situation. Even things dating back to like her 2022 vote for the Respect for Marriage Act is something that conservatives in this state still are skeptical about her for. So she was going to face a difficult re-election cycle either way. But with her out of the race, this is wide open. Again, as you mentioned, Iowa is a red state, but not so long ago it was purple. With this seat open, it really changes the dynamics of the race. But I do think Republicans expect Ashley Hinson to get into this race and to be a very strong contender in her place. And so I don't know that it's going to be an easier path for Democrats if she does indeed end up running for this seat.
Brianna, how would you describe the reaction that voters in Iowa, potential swing voters in Iowa, have been having to this Trump administration? There's obviously a lot of conversation here about his approval ratings, how the midterms might be good for Democrats in various ways. Are you picking up on that there? And if so, what are the things that are breaking through with those voters?
Iowa's an interesting place right now. I think where Democrats see the most hope is in the governor's race. We had another big retirement this year with Governor Kim Reynolds, a Republican, deciding to step aside. And that was a big surprise to the state. And that's created a real opening for Democrat Rob Sand. He's the state auditor running for governor. And he's somebody who's really kind of pushing back almost on the Democratic brand. He's running almost as an independent and really talking to people about, pocketbook issues, the kinds of things that we were really talking about post-election in 2024, and really trying to connect with people on some of those things separate from what's happening in Washington. I think in Iowa, like I assume a lot of places, people are really kind of divided into their two camps. And so the people who like Donald Trump are really in his corner, and we've really yet to see them substantially break away from him. We'll see how the trade wars and the tariffs play out. Obviously, that's a big issue for farmers in this state. So I'm interested to see whether that plays out, and any kind of skepticism over some of his, bigger tactics, sending in the National Guard to Washington, D.C., those kinds of things. If it makes them perhaps want to take a step back with him not on the ballot, whether that inspires fewer of those people to come out and vote in 2026.